This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
In the headlines, the power struggle in America intensifies as President Donald Trump deploys California troops to Oregon, deepening the federal-state dispute. In Japan, a historic shift as Sanae Takaichi rises to become the country's first female prime minister after winning the LDP leadership. North Korea puts its military might on full display. Kim Jong-un unveils the DPRK's latest defense technology in Pyongyang. In the Middle East, President Donald Trump announces that Israel-Hamas talks are going very well, with no hope for a hostage deal. In Rome, the Jewish community gathers in a move hostage vigil, calling for the release of captives still held by Hamas. Back home, the Department of Labor and Employment rolls out 11 million pesos in emergency job assistance for quake-hit workers in Cebu. And in sports, Turkiye claims victory as Olympic shooter Yusuf Dikeç leads his countries to a golden sweep at European Air Weapons Champions in League. I'm Prince Tripoli. Newsline World starts now. U.S. President Donald Trump has deployed hundreds of California National Guard troops to Oregon, deepening tensions between state leaders and Washington over use of military forces during protests. This report. Despite a temporary injunction issued by a federal court, President Trump ordered the deployment of 300 California National Guard troops to Portland. Oregon Governor Tina Kotek criticized the move as a clear attempt to sidestep the court's temporary injunction blocking the federalization of Oregon's National Guard amid ongoing protests near federal buildings. Meanwhile, California Governor Gavin Newsom also denounced the order, saying there was no formal communication from the federal government prior to deployment. Governor Gavin Newsom also concerned the president's actions, announcing plans to sue Trump for what he called the misuse of military power as political pawns. Newsom added that California troops had already been placed under federal control during earlier unrest in Los Angeles, a decision he had opposed. The controversial deployment comes just a day after the U.S. District Judge Karen Immergut issued a temporary order blocking the Trump administration's attempt to activate Oregon's National Guard. The judge noted that the scale of protests in Portland does not justify the use of federal troops and warned that such action could undermine state sovereignty. Meanwhile, nightly protests continue outside the Immigration and Customs Enforcement or ICE building in Portland as legal challenges over federal authority and military intervention are expected to escalate in the coming days. Major oil producers under OPEC Plus alliance are set to increase production again next month, a move aimed at balancing supply with steady global demand. The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies, known as OPEC Plus, announced a production hike on 137,000 barrels per day in November. This mirrors the same increase made in October. The decision was made during a virtual meeting that brought together key producers including Saudi Arabia, Russia, the UAE, Iraq, and Kuwait. OPEC said the move is backed by a stable global economic outlook and healthy market fundamentals, noting that oil inventories remain low. The group first introduced voluntary cuts totaling 1.65 million barrels per day in April 2023, later extending them until 2026. Under the new plan, some of those volumes will gradually return to the market. OPEC Plus members will meet again on November 2 to review market conditions and decide on the next phase of production adjustments. Vice President Sara Duterte extended her heartfelt salute to Filipino educators on World Teachers' Day, lauding their sacrifices and immense contribution to shaping the nation's future. Jason Rubrigo, the details.
Vice President Sara Duterte acknowledged the dedication of teachers in nurturing the knowledge, skills, and values of the youth on World Teachers' Day. In her message, Duterte underscored that teachers remain at the forefront of nation building, shaping not only the minds but also the character of the country's future leaders.
Sa araw na ito, ating kinikilala ang mahalagang papel na ginagampanan ng ating mga guro sa pagtaguyod ng matatag na sambayanan at maliwanag na kinabukasan para sa ating mga kabataan.
She praised their unwavering commitment to education despite challenges, noting that their efforts have greatly contributed to nation building and the development of young Filipinos' potential.
Hindi lingid sa amin ang sakripisyo na inyong ginugugol upang hubugin ang kanilang kakayahan, dunong at pundasyon ng kanilang pagpapahalaga at pagkatao. Ngayon, kaming lahat ay nagbibigay pugay sa inyong malaking kontribusyon sa pag-unlad ng inyong propesyon at sa pagsulong ng potensyal at kasanayan ng mga kabataang Pilipino.
The Vice President also expressed her commitment to stand with teachers in their mission to guide the next generation of Filipinos.
Hangad namin ang inyong patuloy na tagumpay, kalakasan at kalusugan. At nakikiisa kami sa inyong mga mithiin para sa kapakanan ng ating kabataan at bayan.
Her message concluded with a heartfelt tribute, encouraging teachers to remain steadfast in inspiring future generations while continuing to serve as nation builders.
Naway magsilbi pa kayong inspirasyon sa mas marami pang kabataan habang inyong buong sagasig na nilalakbay ang daan tungo sa ating nagkakaisang hangarin para sa isang matatag na Pilipinas. Maraming salamat sa aming mga guro. Mabuhay kayong lahat.
Reporting for Newsline World, I'm Jason Rubrico, SMNI News.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. led the Philippine Development Forum 2025 today at the EDSA Shangri-La in Mandaluyong City, highlighting the government's push for inclusive growth and sustainable development. Organized by the Department of Economy, Planning and Development, DEV, the forum brings together national leaders and development partners to align strategies and priorities for the country's socio-economic progress. Held under the theme, Bringing Together Progress for All, Services That Matter, Results That Last. PDF 2025 fosters dialogue and collaboration on key policy and financing areas. Discussions are anchored on critical 2025 policy milestones, including the midterm update of the Philippine Development Plan, or PDP 2023 to 2028, the official development assistance portfolio review, and insights from Marcos Jr.'s fourth State of the Nation address. Beyond high-level policy alignment, the forum also provides a space to address urgent development challenges and explore emerging opportunities. Through these engagements, the government and its development partners aim to ensure that strategies, programs, and resources remain relevant, responsive, and well-integrated across the sectors. Up next, historic shift as Sanae Takaichi rises to become the country's first female prime minister after winning the LDP leadership. And back home, the Department of Labor and Employment rolls out 11 million pesos in emergency job assistance for quake-hit workers in Cebu. More news when Newsline World returns.
Sa kabila ng mga mas modernong kaalaman at teknolohiya, nananatiling matindi ang banta ng HIV sa Pilipinas. Pero gaano nga ba kalala ang sitwasyon? Ang HIV o Human Immunodeficiency Virus ay isang sakit na sumisira sa immune system ng katawan. Ngunit tandaan, hindi ito nakukuha sa simpleng pakikisalamuha. Hindi mo agad mararamdaman, pero unti-unti nitong pinapahina ang katawan. At kapag hindi naagapan, humahantong ito sa AIDS, ang huling yugto na impeksyon, kung saan halos wala ng panlaban ng katawan laban sa sakit. Patuloy na dumadami ang kaso ng sakit na ito sa Pilipinas. Isang nakababahalang pagtaas. Umabot na sa 500% ang itinaas ng HIV cases sa mga kabataang edad 15 hanggang 25. Ayon mismo sa Department of Health, 56 na bagong kaso ang naitatala kada araw sa bansa mula Enero hanggang Marso 2025. At ang pinakamatinding apektado, ang kalalakihan at kabataang Pilipino. Dahil dito, ang Pilipinas na ngayon ang may pinakamataas na bilang ng bagong kaso ng HIV sa buong Western Pacific region. Isang indikasyon ng lumulubhang sitwasyon. Kaya nananawagan ng Department of Health gawing opisyal at urgent ang laban sa HIV sa pamamagitan ng isang Public Health Emergency Declaration. Kalalakihan ng pangunahing apektado. 95% ng bagong kaso ay lalaki. Mahigit 1/4 ay kabataang nasa edad 15 hanggang 24. Habang wala pang deklarasyon, patuloy ang DOH sa mga sumusunod na hakbang: HIV testing, libreng gamot, self-test kits, at pakikipagtulungan sa DepEd para sa edukasyon sa mga paaralan. Isinulong rin ng DOH ang online patient appointment system para sa HIV patients. Layunin nitong gawing mas madali at mas personal ang pag-access sa libreng gamutan at konsultasyon. Ayon sa schedule ng pasyente, ang HIV ay hindi tulad ng flu. Hindi ito basta naipapasa sa hangin. Ito ay naipapasa sa pamamagitan ng personal na desisyon. Kailangan din nating pagtuunan ng pansin ang ugali, disiplina, at personal na responsibilidad. Isang paalala mula sa SMNI.
Maging alerto at handa tuwing may bagyo. Upang manatiling ligtas, narito ang ilang mahahalagang paalala. Manatili sa loob ng bahay. Iwasan ang paglabas, lalo na kung malakas ang ulan at hangin. Mag-imbak ng pagkain at malinis na tubig. Maghanda ng emergency kit. Manatiling updated sa lagay ng panahon. Maghanda ng mga flashlight at extra baterya. Panatilihing fully charged ang iyong cellphone. I-secure ang mahahalagang dokumento sa waterproof na lalagyan. Patayin ang kuryente, gas at tubig kung may banta ng pagbaha. Alamin ang iyong local emergency hotlines. Putulin o tapyasan ang mga sanga ng puno na maaaring mabuwal sa malakas na ulan at hangin. Lumikas agad kung inabisuhan ng mga otoridad. Maging ligtas at maging handa sa panahon ng kalamidad. Ang paalalang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng SMNI. And we're back. The Philippine Supreme Court has clarified that there is no shortlist yet for the position of ombudsman. This comes after the High Court was asked for updates on the Judicial and Bar Council or JBC deliberations and a possible shortlist of candidates for the post. A total of 17 applicants have applied for the position, including Justice Secretary Jesus Crispin Remulla. Senator Amy Marcos earlier claimed that Remulla is set to be appointed this Monday. Marcos said that truly black remains the color of the nation in mourning, shrouded in fear and hopelessness because the last pillar of accountability has been forcibly dismantled by politics and the desecration of the Constitution. The senator also stressed that Remulla has pending cases and is unfit for the position, adding that she prayed God would save the nation. Japan is set to welcome its first ever female prime minister as building liberal Democratic Party elected Sanae Takaichi its new president in Tokyo. Diana Flores reports.
Sanae Takaichi clinched the presidency of Japan's ruling Liberal Democratic Party, succeeding Shigeru Ishiba, who stepped down following the party's defeat in the July elections. The victory positions Takaichi to become the country's first woman to hold the post of prime minister. In Tokyo, LDP members cast their votes as officials counted the ballots, culminating in cheers when the results were announced. Takaichi thanked her party members and shook hands with Ishiba.
本当に衆参とも少数与党という厳しい状況の中で、丁寧に野党の皆様とも向き合われて、ご苦労を重ねられ、そしてまた去年の総裁選挙の時に強く訴えておられた防災庁の設置、地方創生に大きな道を開いてくださった石破総裁に心よりの敬意を持って感謝を申し上げます。私は今、嬉しいというよりも、本当にこれからが大変なことだ、皆様と一緒に力を合わせてやらなきゃいけないことが山ほどある、そう思っております。たくさんの政策、それもスピーディーに実行しなければいけないこと、たくさんございます。そして皆様と共に、自民党をですね、もっと気合いの入った明るい党にしていく、多くの方の不安を希望に変える党にしていく、そのための取り組みも必要です。先ほど申し上げました通り、私は約束を守ります。全世代総力結集で、全員参加で頑張んなきゃ立て直せませんよ。だって今人数少ないですし、もう全員に働いていただきます。馬車馬のように働いていただきます。私自身もワークライフバランスという言葉を捨てます。働いて参ります。皆様にもぜひとも日本のために、また自民党を立て直すために、たくさんそれぞれの専門分野でお仕事をしていただきますよう心からお願いを申し上げます。そしてこれから私はちゃんと謙虚にやってまいりますので、今そうという声が聞こえました。はい、さまざまなご指導たまりますようお願いを申し上げます。誠にありがとうございました。
The leadership race came down to Takaichi and Agriculture Minister Shinjiro Koizumi after 5 candidates failed to secure a majority in the first round. Koizumi, son of former Prime Minister Junichiro Koizumi, would have been Japan's youngest leader in over a century. A parliamentary vote confirming Takaichi as Prime Minister is set for October 15, ahead of a possible summit with U.S. President Donald Trump, who is expected to urge Japan to ramp up its defense spending. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Diana Flores, SMNI News.
The Department of Labor and Employment has released an initial 11 million pesos under its Emergency Employment Program, or TUPAD, targeting workers displaced by the recent magnitude 6.9 magnitude in Cebu. The program will benefit 1,513 affected workers from quake-stricken areas, including 862 beneficiaries in Cebu City, 163 each in San Remigio, Medellin, and Bogo City, 81 in Sugut, and 81 in Daan Bantayan, the earthquake's epicenter. Meanwhile, 400 workers from Medellin and Tabogon are set to receive their TUPAD wages, amounting to over 2 million pesos. DOLE Central Visayas Regional Director Attorney Roy Buenafe explained that the aid will prioritize workers whose livelihoods were disrupted by the disaster, particularly those from micro, small, and medium enterprises. To ensure continuous support, DOLE Region 7 has deployed personnel to Cebu to profile beneficiaries and closely monitor the evolving situation. Iran says Europe's top negotiators, France, Germany, and the UK, will play a much smaller role in future nuclear talks after the UN sanctions snap back, calling previous agreements no longer effective. Daniela Paulide has the story.
Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi told diplomats in Tehran on Sunday that diplomatic negotiation is the only viable solution, dismissing sanctions and military pressure as tools for resolving the nuclear dispute.
سه کشور اروپایی قطعاً نقش خودشون رو کمرنگ‌تر کردن و توجیه مذاکراتی با خودشون رو تقریباً از بین بردن و در هر گونه راه حل مذاکراتی آینده من تصور میکنم که نقش بسیار کمتری از گذشته خواهند داشت.
The sanctions snapback, triggered by France, Germany, and the UK, aimed to restore United Nations measures that were suspended under the 2015 nuclear deal, which the US exited in 2018. Tehran has rejected the move as illegal, accusing the Troika of violating its commitments. The Cairo Agreement, mediated by Egypt in September, was designed to rebuild cooperation between Iran and UN's nuclear watchdog, the International Atomic Energy Agency, especially on technical inspections and transparency. Iran suspended such cooperation in July after airstrikes by Israel and the US targeted its key nuclear facilities. Reporting for Newsline World, Daniela Paulita, SMNI News.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un led the inspection of the country's newest military assets during the annual Defense Development Exhibition held in Pyongyang. North Korea put its latest military technologies on full display as leader Kim Jong-un toured the annual Defense Development Exhibition in Pyongyang. Images released Saturday show Kim joined by senior officials examining a wide range of modern weaponry, from ballistic missiles and rocket launchers to newly developed drones. During his address at the event, Kim reaffirmed his goal to modernize the nation's defense forces, saying the Democratic People's Republic of Korea aims to build its military on an increasing modern advanced footing. The Defense Development Exhibition serves as a public showcase of Pyongyang's military progress, designed not only to demonstrate the country's technological advancements, but also to boost national pride and unity among its citizens. Coming up in the Middle East, President Trump announces that Israel-Hamas talks are going very well with new hope for a hostage deal. In Rome, the Jewish community gathers in a moving hostage vigil, calling for the release of captives still held by Hamas. And in sports, Turkey claims victory as Olympic shooter Yusuf Dikeç leads his country to a golden sweep at the European Air Weapons Champions League. More news after the break. In Rome, members of Italy's Jewish community gathered in a moving vigil to demand the release of hostages still held by Hamas, nearly 2 years since the October 7 attacks that sparked the Israel-Gaza war. Paul Montibon has the story.
Outside the city's historic synagogue, protesters held portraits of the October 7 captives and a large banner reading, "Bring them home now." Dozens joined in prayer, calling out the names of those still missing before releasing balloons to symbolize hope that their loved ones are still alive. The president of the Union of Young Jews of Italy said the community hopes this anniversary will mark the end of what he described as 2 years of hell and barbarity.
Il nostro pensiero, speriamo davvero che questo possa segnare finalmente la fine di 2 anni di inferno e barbarie e che si possa iniziare a restituire pace e dignità alle famiglie colpite.
The vigil came as former U.S. President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu unveiled a 20-point Gaza peace plan calling for a ceasefire and release of all hostages within 72 hours. Hamas has conditionally agreed, offering to free captives through Qatari and Egyptian mediation if Israel commits to a full withdrawal from Gaza. Nearly 2 years since the October 7 attacks that killed more than 1,200 people, 48 hostages are still believed to be in Hamas custody. For many in Rome and Jewish communities around the world, their message remains simple: bring the hostages home. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Paul Montibon, SMNI News.
U.S. President Donald Trump says negotiations between Israel and Hamas are going very well, expressing optimism that Israeli hostages could be released very soon. Trump confirmed that both sides are engaged in ongoing talks over his proposed peace plan, which he described as beneficial for all parties involved. Here's the rest of what he said.
Great deal for Israel, and it's a great deal for everybody. And you want to get your hostages back, right? Do you want them back or do you not want them back? And it's a great deal for Israel. It's a great deal for the entire Arab world, Muslim world, and world. So we're very happy about it.
Trump added that the talks are progressing smoothly. Under the U.S.-brokered proposal, fighting would stop immediately and all prisoners, including Israeli hostages, would be released within 72 hours. The plan also calls for freeing 250 Palestinians serving life sentences and more than 1,700 others detained after October 7. Hamas conditionally accepted the deal, saying it would release Israeli captives through Qatari and Egyptian mediators if Israel agrees to a lasting peace and full withdrawal from Gaza. Trump welcomed Hamas' response, calling it a very special moment and unprecedented in many ways. Spanish activists detained by Israeli after joining the global summit flotilla have returned to Madrid, with several aligning mistreatment and harassed conditions during their time in custody. Almar Frusuelo reports.
21 activists of the flotilla arrived at Madrid's Barajas airport on Sunday, greeted by family, journalists, and dozens of supporters waving Palestinian flags and chanting for Gaza's freedom. Some were in tears as they embraced relatives, holding banners thanking the flotilla organizers and demanding freedom for the more than 200 activists still detained in Israel.
Bueno, ha sido condiciones muy duras. Hemos estado con huelga de hambre, hemos estado con privación de sueño, con malos tratos, con vejaciones. Nos han apuntado directamente con puntero a partes vitales del cuerpo. Han sido condiciones muy duras, pero bueno, estamos bien y lo importante es que quedan 250 compañeros por volver y hasta que no vuelvan todos no vamos a parar.
Others described their treatment as inhumane, claiming they were beaten, blindfolded, and tied while being held in Israeli custody. Meanwhile, a report emerged that one detainee was accused of biting a prison medical worker during a routine examination ahead of her deportation. The Spanish activist, whose name was not disclosed, was detained at Israel's Kedziot prison when the alleged incident occurred. The staff member suffered minor injuries and was treated on site. It remains unclear whether legal action will be taken. The Global Sumud Flotilla, made up of international activists, was intercepted last week while attempting to break Israel's blockade of Gaza. Reporting for Newsline World, Almar Forswalo, SMNI News.
For our sports update, Turkey's Olympic shooter Yusuf Dikeç once again took center stage, this time on home ground after powering his country to a golden sweep at the Europe Air Weapons Champions League in Istanbul, while the Las Vegas Aces tightened their grip on the NBA's finals, rolling past the Phoenix Mercury to seize a lead in Los Angeles. Carlo de la Peña tells us more.
Known for his calm and effortless shooting style that went viral during the Paris 2024 Olympics, Dikeç teamed up with Mustafa Inan to defeat Germany's Christian Rietz and Paul Froelich 2-0 in the men's team final. Dikeç said competing before a home crowd was a great honor, calling the victory the perfect preparation for the upcoming World Championships in Cairo this November. Turkey also dominated the women's events. Damla Kaze and Elif Berfin Altun took gold in a 10-meter air rifle team event after beating Norway, while Ezra Bozabali and Sival Elaida Tarhan claimed the top spot in the 10-meter air pistol final against France. With these results, Turkey has swept all three team categories, reaffirming their rising dominance in international shooting competitions. At 52, Dikeç continues to embody focus and composure, the same qualities that made him a global sensation in Paris, where his minimalist, laid-back approach and silver medal earned Turkiye its first ever Olympic medal in shooting. Meanwhile, Jackie Young sparked the Aces offense with a record-breaking performance, pouring in 21 of her 32 points in the third quarter, the most ever scored in a single period of a WNBA Finals game. Her outburst helped Las Vegas break away after a tight first half that saw multiple lead changes. Four-time MVP Asia Wilson delivered another double-double with 28 points and 14 rebounds, while Chelsea Gray added 10 rebounds and 10 assists to complete the Aces' dominant showing. For the Mercury, Kalia Copper led the charge with 23 points, and Satu Sabali contributed 22 before leaving late in the fourth quarter with an ankle injury. Alyssa Thomas added 10 points and 5 assists, becoming the WNBA's all-time postseason assists leader with 391. The best-of-7 finals now swift to Phoenix for Game 3 on Wednesday. The Aces, champions in 2022 and 2023, are eyeing their third title in 4 years, a feat only the Houston Comets achieved from 1997 to 2000. Meanwhile, the Mercury are hoping to keep their title hopes alive and chase a fourth championship after previous wins in 2007, 2009, and 2014. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Carlo de la Peña bringing you the latest sports news.
For our showbiz news, Taylor Swift once again provides her unmatched star power as her unusual film debut at #1, earning a staggering $46 million globally. In other news, Cindy Combs has been handed 50-month prison sentence after being convicted on 2 counts of prostitution. The high-profile ruling marks a dramatic fall from grace for one of music's most influential figures. Let's get the full story from Joy Tabanao.
Taylor Swift's unusual film release ranked in $33 million in the US and $33 million overseas, making it one of the year's most successful non-traditional box office launches. The release showcases Swift's versatility, blending electrifying performances with storytelling, and the exclusive premiere of her 89-minute music video, The Fate of Ophelia. Industry watchers hailed the release as a game-changer, bringing the gap between cinema and music. Swift's global fan base, known as Swifties, turned theaters into concert arenas, creating a collective experience that transcends traditional film experience. With this milestone, Taylor Swift cements her reign not just in the music charts, but also on the silver screen. In a dramatic courtroom conclusion on October 3, 2025, Judge Aaron Subramanian sentenced music mogul Combs to 15 months in federal prison, a 5-year supervised release, and a $500,000 fine, which is the maximum penalty allowed. Combs was convicted in July on 2 charges related to arranging paid sexual encounters involving male escorts and his girlfriends, transporting them across state lines for drug-fueled prostitution activities. He was acquitted on more serious allegations, including sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy, avoiding what could have been life in prison. Combs has been in custody since his arrest in September 2024, and his legal team sought a lighter sentence, arguing for 14 months, which would result in his immediate release after serving nearly 13 months in jail. Prosecutors, by contrast, pushed for an 11-year sentence, citing a history of abuse and exploitation. During the emotional sentencing hearing, Combs apologized, calling his behavior disgusting and acknowledging the harm he caused to his family and his former partners. His children pleaded for mercy, painting a portrait of a man striving to change. Judge Sobramanian remarked that while he considered the defense arguments, the severity of Combs' actions demanded a substantial sentence to send a message about accountability. He cited concerns over potential recidivism and rejected the notion that the events were fully consensual or victimless. One of Combs' most prominent accusers, Cassie Ventura, submitted a statement to the court warning that his release could spur retaliation against those who testified. But Combs made an emotional apology to Cassie for the harm he caused her, despite Combs' own admission that his behavior was disgusting, shameful, and sick. The court has upheld his ruling, and he is required to serve his prison sentence for his offenses. And that's all for today's Showbiz News. This is Joy Tabanao, your citizen correspondent, bringing you latest and hottest showbiz news for Newsline World.
What artists see as junk, an artist sees as a raw potential, turning piles of scrap car parts into powerful and intricate sculptures. Let's delve more into this with Anisa de Guzman.
In a modest workshop outside Tehran, surrounded by bent steel, rusted engines, and discarded industrial debris, Afshin Gulami is creating more than art. He's creating hope from hardship. At just 14 years old, Gulami discovered his passion for visual arts, but it wasn't until 5 years ago that he found his true calling, transforming scrap metal into stunning sculptures. Inspired by a friend's challenge to recreate an engine using only car parts, Gulami found beauty and possibility in the most unlikely materials. Gulami said he didn't think that he could do it because his tools were limited and he only had electric welding. But he gave it a shot, and it worked. He hand selects the materials himself, working mostly with damaged car scrap, steel plates, iron, and rebar. Each sculpture is meticulously welded and assembled, combining technical skill with artistic vision. In his workshop, Gulami in his element, deep in focus, sparks flying as he molds metal into expressive industrial masterpieces. But Gulami's journey hasn't been without hurdles. Sanctions and economic hardship have slowed progress for him and fellow artists in Iran. His sculptures are more than art. They're symbols of resilience, resourcefulness, and the transformative power of vision. I'm Anisa de Guzman, your global citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
And before we end, may you be inspired with the words of the sun. Humility and sincerity are what counts in the character of a man. And for our Christmas countdown, 80 days more to go before Christmas. And that's all for this edition of Newsline World. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Prince Tripoli. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.